Welcome to the video. Yes, I am starting 2022 videos by taking a look at some of the images that I took in 2021. I want to walk you through a few selected images that I took during this past year. Not really a year in review because there's really no need, but I did want to select a few images, a few of my favourite images, and talk you through them, including a long exposure that was far more luck than judgment. I'm not going to go do a huge intro on this. I'm just going to jump in now into the very first image. That very first image that you saw, I believe the bird is a house sparrow. This image was taken at a location called Trottick Ponds here in Dundee. The next image that I will show you was also taken there. This was something that I've been doing during the spring and summer, which is bird photography. Certainly early summer I did quite a few hours of bird photography in Trottick Ponds, at Stobsmuir Ponds and a couple of other locations around Dundee. This was one of the images that I'm genuinely very happy with. It is, obviously you can see it, it's a bird sitting on a very thorny vine. It was this bush sits just beyond the main pond in Trottick Ponds, just at the other side of a pathway. There was lots of small birds similar to this, jumping and flying and leaping around a small tree which is kind of at the edge of the pond. There was a lot of them seemingly nesting in that, and they were jumping because there's houses right behind that bush, a couple which have bird feeders. Some of them were jumping to the bird feeders and back and just around the bushes, and this was one I was extremely happy that I took. I've used it on a previous version of my intro. Genuinely one of the bird photos that I took last year. That's, like I said, probably one of my favourite ones. I was very happy, very pleasantly surprised when I was able to capture this one. As I stated, this image is also taken at Trottick Ponds. There are several pathways that lead off Trottick Ponds to a couple of different housing estates and just generally leading off the area. There is one of the paths takes you up to a very hilly forest area. I'm not entirely sure what it's called or whether it's part of Trottick Ponds officially. I'm really not sure, but I walked up it a little bit, I remember that day, and I kind of explored it a little bit and then walked back down, and it's very hill, right down the path leads right up or down the hill depending on which direction you're going, and I was walking down the hill basically paying attention to a few birds that were all again jumping and leaping about on my left, when something caught my eye on my right hand side. I turned slightly, and that was when I saw this deer. Initially I thought it was a statue. It was standing so still. Obviously it saw me before I saw it, and it was just standing there stock still. So my first thought was, okay, who's put a statue in this fenced area? The last time I was down there was a couple of months ago now. The fencing had been removed. I keep meaning to go back down there and see whether they've put up new fencing for a couple of areas. It was kind of like a couple of triangles area, kind of where the fencing, that kind of marked fencing, or where the fencing marked the ground. I don't know why, but there was certainly fencing up there at that point, and the deer, like I said, it saw me before I saw it, and then, like I said, I thought it was a statue, and I took a couple of seconds footage, but then I was able to take this image, and it was between taking the video and the photo. That's basically why I cut off the video after a couple of seconds was because I realised it moved slightly, and I realised, okay, this is not a statue, it's a very real deer. I know that there is deer being seen around that area, and I've seen it in other places, Balgay Park as well. I saw a few deer running around there. I'm sure it was deer. Didn't have my camera out at the point, and they were running, a couple of them just running so quickly I probably wouldn't have gotten a good photo anyway. But I was able to take this image. This was a very unusual, an amazing encounter, to be honest, because we spent just a few seconds kind of looking at each other. Although it felt more like a couple of minutes, this whole kind of encounter lasted maybe 30 seconds. From me seeing the deer standing there thinking it was a statue, taking a couple of seconds of foot video, taking this photo, to the deer running off, it couldn't have been more than around 30 seconds. I know that I said I was going to take a few selected images, but honestly I couldn't quite pick out just one or two images for this to really show you what's going on. This was really another unusual encounter and experience. The figure that you're seeing is a 10-meter large puppet called the sea goddess Storm. This was an event, there's been very few public events in Dundee when you look back at 2021, but this was something that I knew that I had to go down and photograph. I knew if I didn't I would very much regret it. I'm honestly looking at the video of Storm walking around, which I put up on YouTube, and even looking at the photos, and again I did a separate video of my photos. I'm very glad that I did go down. Watching this 10-meter tall figure walking around Dundee, I followed it from the kind of wake up ceremony at Discovery Point, where it was stored when it arrived the night previous. I followed it from there to walking down to Slessor Gardens, and then from Slessor Gardens later on it walked around the city centre of Dundee, up I think it was Castle Street, along and down Union Street, I think it was in the end. I followed it on its journeys, and it was just an amazing sight to see this figure walking around Dundee, 10 metre tall. All I could really think of at a couple of points was the Black Sabbath song Iron Man. It was very reminiscent of that. Storm was in Dundee to not only promote promote the idea of people taking up more eco-friendly means of travel, but also to commemorate the opening of the Cycle Hub, which is at Waterfront Place. But yeah, this was another amazing experience. I'd seen taller puppets on the news, on footage on YouTube and stuff, walking around kind of like English cities and other places. Like I said, I knew I had to go down and capture this. This was one of the events, and I think I got some pretty decent images. If I had to pick out just very quickly one image that I'm beginning to really quite like it, and I'm glad it's one I kept, there is, I believe it's Castle Street. Just before, storm is in the distance, but there is, I have a photo of a mother and son kind of cuddling into, certainly the son's cuddling into the mother. I couldn't really get a photo of Storm any closer than that, because I stood there for a minute trying to think, oh, maybe if Storm comes closer, but of course they moved and everybody moved because they were keeping a safe space around Storm, so that just for manoeuvrability. But that's one that is kind of starting to grow on me. I really quite like that image. I thought I'd throw in this image just quickly. This was an unusual one. I know a lot of this is very kind of related area, because of like Slasher Gardens and the waterfront, because that was kind of one of the ongoing projects during the summer, was the creation of the waterfront place in Dundee. I put up several videos about it, about the water feature, my photos of that, the Tay whale sculpture. I am going to do a video when I can, because the barriers are now down. I'm going to go there when I can and get some footage of it and kind of discuss it and have a look around it. So I'm going to do that very soon. Just kind of cap off any and all kind of coverage of that area, because it's now basically, the area is complete. One of the photos that I took of the water feature when I was basically just playing around with the shutter speeds was this one that you've seen, and I'll try and put these photos up as well beside me if I can while I'm talking about them. It's just an unusual one. I don't know exactly how it happened, but it's just some kind of face or skull in the top right hand corner of the water. It was that was taken at the start of October, and everybody was starting to ramp up for Halloween. It was taken maybe the 2nd or 3rd, something like that, of October, and I just thought it was a very unusual image. Again, just like the long exposure I'll talk about, I don't think I could replicate that again. Travel is one of the industries hit hard by the current situation. There was a cruise company in Dundee. Unfortunately, that went out of business, but we are still seeing a few cruise ships visit the port of Dundee, allowing passengers off. Not many now. The summer season has finished. I don't know how many we'll see next year, but we've seen a couple this year. One of them is a very famous, apparently, in the cruise industry. It's called the Marella Explorer. Unfortunately, the 2 occasions where it visited Dundee, it's a very, very big ship as well in physical size. I was unfortunately busy elsewhere, so I was really hoping to get a couple good photos of that. However, I was, as you've seen, able to get a photo of another cruise ship that visited Dundee called Silver Spirit. This image that you saw was taken as the ship departed Dundee. Because of there's different kind of channels, obviously different deepness in some of the channels along the River Tay. I honestly wasn't sure about how far the ship is, or how kind of close the ship would come in terms of when it made its way down past where I was, which was on the pier, kind of next to Broughty Ferry. I was on the one with the viewing platform. There's two, kind of almost like a fishing dock thing, next to Broughty Ferry Castle, and just literally opposite it there's a kind of a pier with a viewing platform. I was down on the pier, wasn't sure how far it, because of the channel, the weight, obviously the size of the ship, how far it would come close to us, or whether it be really, really far away, kind of on the Fife side of the River Tay. I got this image, and this was one that again I was quite happy with. You can see the ship just going past the Tayport Lighthouse. You can see Fife, obviously Tayport Fife in the background. I really like this one. It's just good timing. I luckily had a long enough lens to capture an image like this. It was really good. Hopefully, if I do get the chance, maybe this year, because we are now in 2022, I may go down when we start to see cruise ships visit Dundee and maybe try and get some more images of them as they depart the city. But this one was quite a good one. Really happy with capturing this image. It took a while, obviously, for the ship to come down. It departed the docks at about 6 p.m, so it took roughly about 20-25 minutes to get down to where I was, but certainly the wait was worth it. I hung around there for a couple of hours anyway, just before, because I was doing a little bit of photography around Broughty Ferry, but I'm really happy with this image, and hopefully I probably doubt the Manila Explorer will visit Dundee again next year, unfortunately, because as I said, it's a really quite famous ship and it's a really big ship, so I was hoping to get a photo of that. But that said, I am quite happy with the ship, the photo that I got of the ship, the Silver Spirit. Street photography is something that I've been doing a lot of this year, and I'm really kind of, especially right now as I record this, I'm really trying to concentrate on getting some decent photos of the people of Dundee. It's one thing, I don't know, I'm just drawn to it at the moment. It's just something that I feel this is what I want to do right now, kind of as a photographic project. I've got a couple of things in mind to do, but that's kind of what I'm kind of concentrating on right at this time. This image is kind of representative of what I've been doing a little bit lately. It's a black and white image combined with slow shutter speed. That is kind of some of the stuff that I've been doing lately, is kind of experimenting with black and white photography and slow shutter speed. The gentleman in the picture that you can see is a street performer named Eric Goodmanson. He's become quite a hit locally lately. I believe he's been around the area for a few years actually, but certainly he's quite good. He plays obviously a lot of well-known popular songs, Scottish songs included. But he's also a bit of a humorist. He makes jokes about people passing by, obviously all in good fun. Jokes like, that bauble on your hat is almost as big as your head, or just various different quips that he makes, which a lot of them are quite funny, and everybody knows that he means them in good jest. He's quite funny actually. Decent singer as well. I've spent a couple of times listening to him for a few minutes in between different appointments, and so I really like this. I've seen a similar image by Jared Polin on his channel when he was in Venice, and this was kind of the look I was going for. A few people, they weren't moving as quickly as I would like to. There was kind of older people with a shopping trolley. There's 4 of them. They were all together, but obviously 2 of them were a bit dragging behind, which is great because it kind of was able to frame Eric in between them. So I thought it was just a good image to share. I certainly will share more images in my kind of street photography and talk about that hopefully very soon. As I stated earlier, honestly, Waterfront Place, what I've also been calling the Urban Beach area, which is actually just beside the V&A Museum. If you go, you could go through the archway of the V&A Museum and walk down just a little bit towards the Tay Road Bridge. There you'll find the Urban Beach, the kind of the sand area, the sand and seating, the wooden seating. You can find the Cycle Hub, which also I believe has a little bit of a kind of takeaway area and a bike shop, and that water feature, plus of course the Tay Whale sculpture. I believe a gentleman called Lee Simmons who has designed and created this sculpture. Like I said, I will do a video very soon showing you the sculpture from the various different angles, and now that the barriers are down, the work seems to be finished on that. within the next couple of weeks I will do that video and kind of finish my kind of coverage of that area. Now, like I said, I think I said earlier, now it's all finished. Basically that's it. I'll still go down there. I want to kind of go down there and do some more street photography, but I will do that video with my GoPro very soon, just to cap off the whole entire thing, because it has been a place that I've been a lot recently. It was this past year, because the place has been really starting to come together. Now this image, I took this, obviously it's a night image. I had my camera on my tripod. It's a 15-second exposure, and honestly, like some of the images that I've done this year, I was just kind of, especially in long exposures, I'd be just mucking about with the different settings, not really intending to capture anything, not really looking to just to kind of, at that point I was really just experimenting with long exposures and moving the camera, which is why I think I said earlier, this image, and I'm sure there might be people out there that, oh, that's easy to replicate. Honestly, I probably couldn't replicate it if I tried 100 times. What I was doing at that point was just kind of setting a long exposure. This was a 15-second exposure, and I think I was mucking about with like 10, 15 and 20-second exposures and moving the camera. I think for this image I moved the camera from right to left, I think it was, and I just, you know, I moved the tripod. Obviously it was, again, the camera was on the tripod, so I just moved the tripod head around very, very slowly, and I came up with this image. Honestly, when I saw this image, because I was checking them just to see, it was a little bit of fun, just to kind of occupy myself, because sometimes, especially that night, there was people continually going down there. Every time a group of people disappeared, that you thought, great, I can now get some clear images of the table sculpture, more people would appear, and it was just, couldn't get that very clean, clear shot that I wanted. It was just impossibility. There was one family that came there and basically camped there for a couple of hours. Small kids running around, and obviously I can't take your images there. They'd gone off, thankfully, finally, and I was just mucking about again with long exposures and settings, and it ended up with this image. I couldn't believe it when I obviously once the data had processed onto the card, I reviewed it and was like, that can't be the image that I've just taken. Obviously when I got it back to the computer, I think I put down the highlights very, very, very slightly, but genuinely nothing that has been done very much to this image. So there was, again, more luck than judgment, but hey, on some days, some photography outings, if that's your luck, you're obviously going to take it. The last image that I'm going to show you, because I know this is a very long video, this is a very recent one. This was taken just a couple of weeks ago up on the Law Hill, and I was just kind of experimenting with a lens that I've got, and you know, that's the thing. This time, well, I say this time of year, normally during around, especially the beginning of October to around about even the mid-December, maybe the first week maximum of December, is kind of the good period when we get some really fantastic sunsets in Dundee, especially if your view is towards the riverfront area, or you're at the riverside area, that waterfront place along, basically between or from around the areas of from Broughty Ferry Castle up to the Tay Road Bridge, up to the rail bridge, and a little bit beyond, kind of where Dundee kind of comes to an end a little bit there. There's kind of, it goes off in the direction. You're going to get some really good sunsets, and that is normally the time of year that we get them. Because if you're standing facing Fife, and people maybe think this is basic geography, but just to explain, if you're standing facing Fife, the sun will set on your right hand side, this is my right hand side right now, but it sits on your right hand side if you're facing Fife, and sometimes if the conditions are right we get some beautiful sunsets. This was an image taken, I think, probably during the last great sunsets. Wasn't fantastic that I've seen before. I've seen a few this year that have been really good, and this is the time of year where I normally go out and try and take some decent sunset images. I've done that the last couple of years. Just something about that, if I'm able to and I'm available, just something about that kind of time draws me in, and they're probably that kind of photographer in me. I want to go down and get some really good photos, and I've seen many people get some really good photos this year. So I was up in the Loch Hill looking towards Fife, and I really like this image. It's obviously a wind turbine. There's a bit of a wind farm over there. I don't know what the area is called, or what the wind farm is called, if it's got a name, but obviously the wind turbine, and the land is in shadow, and the sky looks like it's on fire. That's what the kind of effect you get sometimes. It looks like a bit of a nuclear look to it, like something's going off, or, and obviously it's the sun, a great big ball of fire in space. That's kind of the effects we get, and that's the thing. Fife, if you go down there, it looks almost like Fife is kind of like an edging of the land. It looks almost kind of like, obviously again it's the horizon, but it almost sometimes looks like the land just finishes there. Obviously it doesn't, because you can go over the Tay Road Bridge and you can drive on, but the way that Fife lies, especially if you're walking around along the waterfront, it basically looks like Fife is the edge of the world almost. But I really like this image. Wasn't really going up there to take keepers anyway. I was just kind of going up with my lens just to see kind of what viewpoints I got when that image presented itself to me, and I thought, that is one of the last quite decent images that I got in 2021. That is a few selected images that I've taken in 2021. Like I said earlier, I've been far more organised this year than ever before, especially with my images, keeping them in specific folders and keeping them in a 2021 folder. Something honestly that I should have done a few years ago is keep the JPEG, the JPEGs of them, and keep the finished images. And although I've kept quite a few images, I've not really ever been. If you look through I've been looking through my USB, my hard drives, and a lot of them are all over the place in terms of organisation. But I am fairly happy with some of the images that I've taken during the course of this past year. Not a huge amount of really interesting stuff. I was not a lot of public events, which I fear will be the same story unfortunately this year in 2022, but I have been getting out and about trying to make photographic opportunities where and when I can, and I just hope that in 2022 I'll be able to do the same. And as I said, I've got a little bit of concentration right now on some street photography, and there's a couple of other things that I want to do in and around kind of Dundee, looking at Dundee. So hopefully I'll get to that. Hopefully I'll get some success photography wise as well. But there's just a few images that I wanted to go through, wanted to talk through, because obviously the way that I do it sometimes, especially due to various factors and not having the time or opportunity, is just to upload videos of my photos without discussing them. I keep saying I want to change that. Hopefully I will do that in 2022.